Hello, everyone. Dr. Stillman and Jim Laird here. And tonight I'm really excited to be talking about how to get and the secret to getting great results in functional medicine. Jim, thank you for joining me.
You're
Any
very
thoughts
welcome.
before I open it up?
I'm excited to talk about this. This is like kind of the big gorilla in the room that nobody wants to talk about.
It's funny you say that because I came up with this phrase recently called showing the elephants out of the room. I've found that when people come into a consultation with me, and this is actually the perfect place to start. When people come into a consultation with a functional medicine doctor, I have found that they have an enormous number of anxieties, elephants in the room, that they actually would like to address. And the sad thing about the way functional medicine has gone is that people are not actually addressing them in a timely fashion. So, what are these things? They're wondering, can this person really help me? Do they actually know what to do with my specific problem and my unique situation? Can I afford the care they're going to recommend to me? Are they going to recommend to me insane numbers of supplements, ludicrous numbers of lab tests? How often are they going to recommend them to me? It's one thing to recommend $1,000 in supplements every quarter. It's a totally different thing to recommend $1,000 of supplements every month. And I've seen people do that. I've seen patients try that, and I've seen it leave a lot of people feeling disillusioned, disappointed, upset, frustrated, really let down by the whole process, frankly. And I wanted to create this video, this webinar, in order to help people understand what is actually required to get great results in functional medicine so that people don't waste their time and their money. I've been struck by how many people in the functional medicine space are, I feel, not really acting in good faith with their patients. And I don't honestly fault them for that. And the reason I don't fault them for that is because I don't think that they understand what they're doing because they haven't thought about it. But I have taken the time to think about it and really try to create a better process for people that they'll come away feeling was very authentic and genuine and honest. We didn't waste their time. They didn't waste ours. But we also met them where they were so that they could get the results that they needed for what was going on in their life. Whether it's, professionally, personally, because we've seen so many different cases, so many different situations in life where there's just not a good one size fits all approach. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, is how we get really great results. And the number one thing that I think people come into functional medicine not understanding is the secret to great results actually starts with time. That means what I call clinical time spent with myself, my staff, talking about your case, discussing what's going on in your life, all of the different root causes. And the analogy that I'll often draw for patients is that of a tree, right? People use this buzzword of root cause medicine increasingly as a marketing catchphrase. It's very effective. It's a great buzzword. And it conveys a very important concept of this root cause of illness. But I think people actually get lost in the analogy from the reality that it represents. And what I'll explain to patients in a consult with them once I've gotten to know them a little bit better and I know their problem is, imagine you have a 10-year-old problem, okay? Imagine if that was a 10-year-old oak tree and it's been growing really well. It's big, it's fat, it's driven its taproot meters down into the earth. It's got lots of side roots, right? People will often say, well, what's the root cause of my this or my that? Thinking in terms of the root cause is often a losing game. And the reason why is that when you look at a tree, the way that it grows, it doesn't grow one root. It grows an entire system of roots. And people's problems are the same way. When people apply for a consult at the practice, I have a very specific sequence of emails that they'll get showing them testimonials of people who've gotten great results with us. And one of the things I'm looking for people to do, Jim, I think you're getting some feedback, so I'm going to just mute you real quick.
Sorry about that.
No worries. One of the things I'm hoping people will do is they'll go watch those testimonial videos and listen to people. And the reason why is that every single testimonial, I ask them a very simple question. I say, of everything that we did together, supplements, lab testing, telling you to go outside and wiggle your toes in the grass, telling you to eat, greens, beans, meat, whatever we told you to eat, whatever we told you to do that you did, what deserves the credit for the improvement that you got? I also asked them on a scale of 0 to 100%, with 0 being where they were when they first started with us and 100% being where they'd like to be. Where are they now? My goal when I've worked with somebody for 3 to 6 months in an intensive program, I'll explain what that means later, is for them to get 50 to 90% improvement in that period of time. And they always say in the testimonial that a very broad combination of things contributed to their success. Frequently, they express amazement and surprise at what got them the results that they got. They thought it was going to be the supplements. Turned out it was something like group coaching with Jim and I. They thought it was going to be a lab test. Turns out it was actually a one-on-one call or consult with Jim. They thought it was going to be mineral protocols, and it turns out it actually was the vitamin C or the MSM protocol, which we share with people as we go. So I created this system because I wanted people to understand that just as a tree has many different roots that go down variable ways into the ground, your illnesses are very much the same way. And if you think about it that way, does it make sense that in 1 or 2 consultations, I'm going to be able to chop the tree down, haul it away, and then get the stump out of the ground? No, that takes a long time. Sometimes we can do that if the problem is new, recent, not deeply rooted in your body, in your life. And understanding that analogy is very important, because I see a lot of people coming into the functional medicine space and trying various things. Usually they go very intensively with lots of procedures and very intensive supplement protocols. And they usually wind up in my office when they've already failed all that stuff. They've seen a local practitioner. They've seen someone they heard about on a podcast. They may have seen multiple of these folks. And then finally they find me. And what I found working with them is exactly what I've just shared with you in this analogy of the root cause. It took me about 8 to 12 hours with each of my cases that I worked with intensively in my first few years of practice to really figure out exactly what was going on. And that 8 to 12 hours is not set in stone. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. But what I found is if we don't have that time, we do not consistently get results. People often, if not always, underestimate the amount of time that we're going to need to not just get them good results, but great results. And I want to talk about what I mean when I say great results, because that's just as important as talking about what goes into it. Overwhelmingly, what I see happening in functional medicine is that people come in and they get maybe 10 or 15 or 25% better, or maybe they get 90% better after 1 or 2 consultations and a couple of lab tests and some supplements, but then they don't actually have durable results. What I mean by that is those results evaporate. They keep doing the same thing and they do more of it. They find out that magnesium really helps their headaches. They take more of it. All of a sudden they can't take more because it's giving them loose stools. Then they add boswellia. Then they take ashwagandha. I talked more about this in my webinar a few weeks ago called The Problem with Modern Medicine Revealed, where I break down a lot of what's going on that's dysfunctional in the medical system for you. That webinar is one of the most important ones I've ever done. Definitely go watch it if you're getting or interested in, or even remotely contemplating in even the distant future, getting functional medicine care. So why is this so important? As the approaches that they're using start to fall apart, they go up on doses, they can't tolerate higher doses, they run out of different things to add. All of a sudden their headache protocol is 15 different supplements and 5 different biohacks, and they still have crippling headaches every day. As that tends to get worse and worse and worse, they run out of options. And the reason is that they're not actually dealing with the root cause. Most of them don't get the insight they need from the practices that they're at, because they're set up to just add more and more and more and more things. When people fall out of that system is, like I said, when they generally speaking come to see me, and then we actually get to work on the root cause of things. But it takes time for us to get into that and get the details, and also coach you into the diet, lifestyle, supplementation protocol that's actually going to work, actually going to get the job done, and actually get you results. And when I say results, I mean significant results. My goal when I work with people is 50 to 90% improvement within 3 to 6 months. I consider that a pretty high bar. I like to think that we do a good job of getting people there. Obviously, that depends upon factors that are not within my control. It depends upon them putting in the work, showing up, engaging with us, and also executing what we share with them, among other things. But what do I mean by durable? Because durable is just as important to me as significant. I've found many, many people are frustrated by the fact that they spend tons of money, tons of time, an enormous amount of effort on results that are fleeting. They feel like they're still dependent upon supplements. They're dependent upon biohacks or daily routines or avoiding this food or avoiding that food. One of the most common things people come to me requesting or hoping for is more freedom in what they can eat. They want to be able to go out and have that cheese pizza. Not every day, not twice a week, maybe once a month, but they just want to be able to go out and have a reasonably normal life. And I completely understand that. And I've seen many people be able to achieve that freedom. But the secret was this consultative time that we had to help them fix their underlying diet and lifestyle problems. And then also judicious, reasonable, personalized supplementation protocols, all of which, like I said, take, in relative terms, what is a lot of time. Like I said, 8 to 12 hours is what I shoot for. That's what I try to incorporate into my intensive programs, which again, I'll explain later on today. But that's the secret right there in a nutshell. That simple thing, time, so that we can really get to the root cause of things and understand what it's going to take to not just chop down the tree, but actually haul it away and then pull that stump out of the ground. And as you may not realize, how we do that actually depends a lot on you. When I first used this analogy in front of Jim, I said, well, you might have to use a stump grinder. We might have to burn it out. We might have to, do something else that I don't even know about for getting rid of stumps. I am not some kind of expert in stump grinding and removal. And Jim just said, well, we could just use dynamite to remove it. Some people are open to using dynamite to remove their problems. Some people are not. We actually have to tailor our approach to fit your lifestyle. What I tell a busy mother of 5 with a husband to do for her wellness is not going to be the same as what I tell a 35-year-old, single, self-employed, successful tech professional, right? These are different people with different levels of stress, different levels of responsibility, and different demands on their time, with different stakes if they have to say, take a day off or take an afternoon off, or they have a bad night's sleep, right? So all of that goes into getting great results in functional medicine and really delivering what I would consider to be a superior, above and beyond level of patient care. Jim, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it comes down to, you've got modern medicine, which if you go to modern medicine with blood pressure problems, you'll go to the doctor and they'll give you Diazide, or they'll give you whatever, usually diuretic or some sort of blood pressure medication. And your blood pressure will be fixed immediately, right? They might say, hey, well, you need to exercise. Maybe you need to work on your sleep or whatever. They might say it to you. They won't come up with any kind of an action plan or anything like that. And they'll send you on your way. And then 6 months, 2 years, 3 years down the road, you're having side effects from the blood pressure medication, or the blood pressure medication just quit working altogether. There was no talk about nutrition. There was no talk about, why your blood pressure might be high. Do you smoke? Are you under a lot of stress? Integrative medicine, all of a sudden they start doing more testing. They try and come up with a why. Maybe they start looking at your overall digestive health. They start talking to you about lifestyle. They maybe give you some biohacks to do. They give you a bunch of supplements, but really the same thing applies. They're very rarely is there a game plan on actually how to change your lifestyle, right? You've been doing certain things in your life for years and years and years. You're just not going to flip a switch in one day, reverse all of this stuff, right? And so, what we do generally is we look at, one, do you have the fundamental basic, just like with fitness, do you have a fundamental base level of fitness? Do you have a fundamental base level of health? Are you getting outside? Are you getting sunshine? We go through all these basic 5 fundamental habits that we have. In the process, we might find some things that are specific to you, but most people don't start with these fundamental base foundations of health they start with the thyroid, or they start with TRT, or they start with peptides, and they build that as their foundation. We want to build foundation through habit change, and that's going to allow us to build resiliency over time, and it takes more time. And most people, they don't start the client off or the patient off at a low enough level for them to actually make an improvement and for it to be sustainable. They give them too much, too fast, too soon, and then it doesn't end up sticking, right? So it's everyone's looking for that fast, flashy result, and that happens sometimes, but honestly, it's consistency over time, doing things that aren't that radically exciting, which is going to get you results over the long haul.
That's one of the things that I think is one of the biggest misconceptions. Because if we see one thing happening with people seeking consultations at the medical practice, it's, well, I would like a review of my labs with Dr. Stillman. There's value in that. But every lab that I tackle in a consult, there's multiple levels of someone's diet and lifestyle that go into determining how that lab is manifesting. So, for example, if somebody comes in and they have a low IGF-1 level, right? This might mean that they don't eat enough protein. It might mean that they don't get good sleep, and it might mean that they're under too much stress. I cannot possibly get to the root of all three of those things or help them optimize those three things in an hour-long consultation. And that's why the functional medicine world is full of people who are hopping from clinic to clinic, doctor to doctor, lab test to lab test, protocol to protocol, and they're not getting great results. When confronted with the amount of time that it takes to really get into their issues, they're often taken aback and they say, well, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, or I didn't realize it was going to take that to get great results. I'm truly not offering that because it works better for me, because the truth is, we could just book everybody out 3 months with an hourly, consultative fee. But when I did that, I got really, frankly, mediocre results, and I was frustrated by that. It's not that I didn't know what I was doing. I know exactly what I know now. Then it worked the same. It was that we didn't have enough time to get into the case to give them a decent shot at success. And to go back to the tree analogy, right? The way that the a la carte system is working, and I talked more about this again in my webinar, the problem with modern medicine revealed a couple of weeks ago, which you should definitely go watch in detail, take notes. It's very important. But to go back to the tree analogy, this would be like somebody coming to your house and saying, oh yeah, I'll get started on this tree today. It'll be $125 or $200 or whatever. And I'll come back next week and work a little bit more on it. And they gradually work away at this tree and this, project that if they'd been honest with you was going to take 20 grand, 10 grand, 5 grand, $1,000, whatever it is, all of a sudden they're basically billing you one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and you're not sure when it's going to end. Personally, as a patient, I found that to be grating. Walking into a consultation, not knowing if I'm going to have to buy another $1,000 in labs, another $2,000 in supplements. Am I going to be able to get support if something goes wrong? I have a negative reaction to a supplement. If I call the office, am I just going to get well, you need to book an appointment. The next one is in 3 months. That doesn't help you. That doesn't really serve you best. So what I decided to do was to create different models and work with people in what we call programs and memberships, which I'll explain later, where we had the time between a whole team of people to help people troubleshoot all these problems as they came up, but also give people an upfront estimate, essentially a good faith estimate of, hey, you have a 10-year-old problem. It's not going to go away with your next shiny object. You probably already know that if you're knocking on my door, because you've probably already seen a bunch of other practitioners. You probably listened to a lot of podcasts, read a bunch of articles, tried a bunch of different things. And so you're thinking already, I probably need a more comprehensive, in-depth solution, right? And what I did with the programs was I tried to create that solution to give people the best chance of success, knowing upfront what the cost was going to be, rather than just being hit by bill after bill after bill for 1 month of supplements or one lab test after another. Jim?
Yeah, what I like about what we do is the accountability aspect of it.
Yes.
and that's something I've learned over the years of 20 years of owning a gym and training people in person. Thanks for watching, by the way. We've got a bunch of people watching live. Give us a
Yes.
like.
Thank you all for watching.
Give us a comment. We'd love it. The algorithm obviously doesn't like us. But that's what I noticed after working with people for 20 years. I'm thinking, well, once I teach them these things, they're not going to need me anymore. And that was the furthest thing from the truth. They needed that support when they started going off the rails, and that's the thing. Habit change is hard. When you've been doing something for a long period of time, and our modern world is not set up for you to be healthy, right? It's just not.
Right.
So to have someone there to encourage you and make sure that you're doing what you need to do, and sometimes giving you extra things to do, and many times a lot of what we do is to slow people down. They get so fired up and so excited that what they're doing is unsustainable, and it's just like, just cool your jets for a little bit, right? So I love interacting with people. I love talking to them. I love helping them work through their problems so that they can figure out what they need to do and how they can build a better relationship with themselves. And that just doesn't happen in 1 or 2 sessions. That takes time for people to really understand what they need to do to improve their health. And I have plenty of practice doing this on myself because I've destroyed my health in every possible way imaginable. And that's one of the main reasons I like helping other people, is because I've been there, trust me. And so it's great. And, we're really trying to focus on bringing transparency and to get away as much from the gimmicky sales stuff that's going on right now. There's just so many voices out there and there's so much content. People are having to use really, really weird sales tactics and stuff to get people to work with them. And, we just really want to be upfront, honest, and transparent about prices, about how we work, and treat people the way we'd want to be treated.
Yeah. And the whole point of this webinar, of course, being we want you to understand what it's going to take for you to get great results. Because frankly, I really love success. I love when patients say to me, Dr. Stillman, I feel so much better. Those 7 words they make my day. When I hear that and then I have a team meeting, I always bring it up. Hey, so-and-so is feeling 30% better, 50% better, 70% better. Their headaches went from every day to every other day, or every day to every week. They went from a 7 to a 3 in intensity, whatever it is. That's the whole point of doing this. And I really moved away in my practice from just, well, how many consults can I get and how high can my hourly fee be? I moved away from that, where a lot of people get stuck because it felt very disingenuous, because I would much rather work with fewer people and invest more time and energy into them and get them better results. And truthfully, I feel like it better serves me and my team in the long run, because then we have lots and lots of raving fans who we were totally honest with, who came in knowing what they were getting into, and then who had a great chance of success. Because one thing I've found that's really surprised me, it's not surprising in retrospect, but it has struck me how powerful it is. If you resonate with a therapeutic approach, or a practitioner, that is maybe the best predictor of whether or not you're going to succeed with them. And that idea of resonance is one that I love, because I'm so interested in light therapy and energy medicine and sound and all these different, bioenergetics or bioelectrical therapeutics, but it's real. If you really resonate with someone in a team of people, that is a strong predictor, in my opinion, of your success. It might sound weird and out there and very wishy-washy and touchy-feely, but overwhelmingly that's been my experience. And it just came up in a book I read recently by Tom Cowan on, it was his book on, I believe, cancer, which is great if you haven't read it. So all of that's very important for people to know going into functional medicine, because I think that it gets advertised as basically what I have now come to call the Instagram reel version of functional medicine. And I say that with full self-awareness of the fact that I put out a lot of Instagram reels, but I'm trying to, hopefully in all of my Instagram reels, convey to you that it's way more complicated than just, oh, I took this test and then I took this protocol and it cured my SIBO or it fixed my headaches. Sometimes, like Jim said, you get these great results right out of the gate. You get amazing impacts or improvements with just a few simple things. But what we've overwhelmingly found is that even when you get those quick results, they're fleeting. They don't last forever. Why? Because you haven't yet trained that person how to live. And believe it or not, every single one of you is unique. There's a lot out there to lead you to believe that you're all similar enough that, a one size fits all approach is appropriate. But that completely falls apart in the real world of actually treating patients and training people. And what we really, I think, on a fundamental level do isn't actually treat patients. We do technically, legally do that at the medical practice. But the real calling for me anyway is to teach people how to be as healthy as possible with essentially as little of my help as necessary. That's very much, I think, the calling to me as a physician. And that goes along with one of my favorite quotes from Hippocrates, who said the greatest medicine of all is teaching people how not to need it, which generally speaking, I plaster all over my social media for exactly that reason. And one of the things I want to impress on people is that many, many people, if not most of the people coming to us, have already seen lots of doctors, particularly integrative functional medicine practitioners. It's not uncommon for me to be talking to someone who's seen half a dozen different practitioners in the last couple of years or more. And some of them are, top people. They flew across the country. They flew across the world. And what I've found is that these practitioners are not necessarily focused on these fundamental habits, choices, lifestyle decisions, environmental considerations. And so we find things that other people have missed that are actually more important than the next protocol, supplement, lab test. And let me give you an example, a quick example of what that looks like. We had a recent case where one of our nurses was on the phone with somebody who was having a lot of volume loss. That means they were having a lot of, what I mean by that, to be clear, I went into doctor speak there for a minute. It's not fair. They were losing a lot of fluid, right? People lose a lot of fluid in a lot of different ways. They can go out in sauna or sweat if they're working really hard outside in the heat. They can have frequent urination. They can have liquid bowel movements. If they're over breathing, they're actually going to lose more water in their respirations because they're breathing more often. If they live in a very dry environment, they're going to lose more water. And this person had a history of kidney stones, and they were only drinking 2 liters of water a day. So they've had all this lab testing. They bought all these supplements. They've seen all these practitioners, and no one had told them, hey, you need to double your water intake for what you're currently losing. And that's just to keep up. And it perfectly explained a lot of his problems. And this is also why I stopped working alone, because many people said, well, I think I just need to see Dr. Stillman and just talk to Dr. Stillman. That's not been my experience. Can I help you in an hour? Can I help you in 2? Can I help you in a lot of hours? Yes. But it really started to grate on me when I found myself in consultations with people that they'd booked, and I was telling them that they needed to drink more water. I was telling them they needed to eat more protein. I was telling them they needed to drink spring water instead of tap, or add minerals to their water. Because the reality is, you don't need a doctor to tell you that. Anyone on my team is trained and is going to know how to guide you into the right diet and lifestyle for you. And the reality is that is the foundation of health. And that's what's missing from a lot of functional medicine. It's gotten too much to be about the fancy toys, lab testing, gadgets, gizmos, supplement protocols. I mean, some of the stuff out there is pretty crazy. And what's crazier is that people will get deep into the crazy side of functional medicine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I don't have a problem with being intense or extreme or going the extra mile or going above and beyond, or however you want to put it, or trying new things or experimenting with new things. I think that's wonderful. We do it a lot. But if you're basically spending all this time climbing to what I call the top of the therapeutic tree to pick the right fruit all the way at the top, and you're leaving all the low-hanging fruit at the bottom, you're not serving yourself well. And if your practitioner is not saying, hey, you climbed 50 feet into the air to pick one piece of ripe fruit, and there are 10 on the lowest boughs that you haven't even started to pick, you are not making the most of your time, your money, your energy, and your resources. And the other thing is, this is where the analogy or metaphor with the tree falls apart. The fruit at the top is not the same as the fruit at the bottom. It does not matter how many fancy this, that, and the other things you do. If you don't get the fundamentals right, you're going to get sick and die young. It does not matter how fancy your functional medicine doctor is. It does not matter how much lab testing I order. It does not matter how compliant you are with a supplementation protocol or how sophisticated that protocol is. You are not going to get results, and you are going to get sick and die young. And there is absolutely nothing that no doctor, trainer, coach, functional medicine guru, spirit healer, or whatever on earth can do about it. So we've got to start with that foundation. And once you have that, then everything works better. Jim, I know you have thoughts on this, so I'm going to shut up for a minute.
Yeah, you sounded like an evangelical there for a second. I thought you were going to do an altar call. But you know, when we first started working, I remember when we first started working together, I told you, I said, man, you know, sometimes it would take me 2 years just to get someone to eat enough protein, you know, and you would be like, you're kidding me, right? I was like, no, sometimes you just have to beat people over the head with it. And I've got old podcasts of clients of mine that would get on there and be like, he just kept telling me over and over again. And then one day it hit me. I needed to go outside and get some sun. And I was like, oh, this actually works. Right. And, you know, that's the wonderful thing about having a good team, is because Dr. Stillman or myself can lay out a roadmap for you of things to try. And then you got to make adjustments along the way, right? Just, there are things that work for most people, but there are things we'll try and it won't work. And then we have to try something else. So we got to make adjustments.
Absolutely.
And then, but you don't have to get on the phone with Dr. Stillman for someone to hold you accountable or to give you, you know, pep talks, right? Because that gets very, very expensive, right? So
it does.
Not only is what you're doing and building the fundamentals of the habits is important, it's consistency in you actually doing what you're supposed to do. Because if you don't actually do what we tell you to do in the beginning, there's no point in moving to the next level or going on to the next therapeutic, right? Or there was one lady that got a little ahead of herself, and she got into like chapter 6 or 7 of I think she got into the EMF stuff. And she called me up and she was freaking out. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I'm like, so have you gotten outside in the morning? No. Have you eaten a protein at every meal? No. Do you drink water, like spring water? No. Do you have the right lights off at night? Well, let's worry about those first, and then we'll tackle the EMF monster later. And once she took care of all those basic things, she felt way better and had more energy, right? And so I remember us discussing this a number of times where you would ask me, hey, how far into the curriculum have you gotten with this person? I'm like, well, I'm only in chapter 2 because they haven't done anything in chapter 1 yet. It's been like 2 months.
Exactly.
I'm still working on chapter 1.
Yeah. And so it's funny, you know, we've talked about this a lot. What I found, you know, doctors kind of get indoctrinated. Some of you know this all too well. And I found that I kind of got indoctrinated into this idea that, you know, when I told people to do things, they would do them. Because in the hospital where I trained, I, as a doctor, would put orders into the computer and someone would do the orders, the nurse, the aide, the orderly, whatever. Sometimes I would find that orders didn't get done. And I would sort of joke, oh, the orders are just suggestions. But then I got out into the real world of working with people one-on-one in consultations and, you know, functional and integrative medicine. And I found that, in fact, particularly when I started working with Jim, I would tell people they needed to do something. And then Jim would come back after coaching them and say, hey, all that stuff that you thought they were doing, they weren't doing any of it. So we just went over that again and made sure that they were actually going to start doing it again. And sure enough, the people who did those things and actually were held accountable and understood and had that prompting made the behavior change, got the results, and were happy with their program of care. And time and again, the people who blew off that accountability piece, who didn't take the time for the fundamental habits, got worse results. And that's why we do this kind of content where we're really frank and maybe even overly aggressive in telling you how it really is, because I feel like it's very disingenuous what's going on in the functional medicine field today, with lots of people basically over promising, and then people don't get the results and they don't understand why. This lack of appreciation for the fundamentals is largely why. Jim?
This is great training for you to becoming a parent.
Thanks, Jim. Sweet of you.
because that's what you're going to have to do for like 20 something years, is repeat the same thing over and over. Do you think kids are going to listen to it? I mean, clients are no different than kids. I mean, the number of people that you will only tell them something once and they'll do it continuously. I mean, look at guys in the NFL. These are people that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and they have to hire people to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, because if they didn't have anybody there telling them what to do, they'd blow off all the basic stuff they need to do. Like, they'd skip it. These are guys that are getting paid millions of dollars, right? And so it's human nature to cut corners and to take shortcuts.
It is. But believe me when I tell you, Jim and I have already tried to find all the shortcuts. Just let us tell you what they are, because you are going to get lost, turned around, stuck in the ditch, out in the cold in the middle of the night if you try and find them your own way. I like to say, there's this great quote about experts. Niels Bohr was this quantum physicist from Denmark, and he said, an expert is merely someone who has made all of the mistakes possible within a very narrow field of study. I've made many mistakes in my lifetime. Fortunately, none of them have ever harmed a patient that I can recall. Grateful for that. But I make lots of mistakes. And because I've made mistakes, I have a lot of knowledge and information that I can share with people to help them get results better, faster. So let's talk about functional medicine beyond these fundamentals, because we've really harped on them and preached about them. And I want to explain a little bit about how I've set up the way I work with people now to get them great results in a way that's actually sustainable for them. Because one of the other problems I've seen in functional medicine is it's not sustainable for most people. They have a certain amount of money that's available for them to spend on their wellness for a period of time. And if they don't get the job done within that period of time and within that budget, it can create an enormous amount of stress in their life. And I'm actually very sensitive to that, because I've seen stress ruin people's lives. It can destroy people's most important, intimate, close family relationships. It can ruin their performance at work. It can create disease in and of itself. And so you deserve to know, going into functional medicine or whatever you want to call it, what it's going to take to get these results and what things are generally going to cost. Before I get into that, I want to take a brief moment to talk about what functional medicine is and what it is not. Functional medicine I use a lot in the content that I make because it very much describes what I do. I've been trained by people who have trained in functional medicine, but at the same time, it's really important for people to understand that this is fundamentally a buzzword that took off when a couple of different really key influencers decided to come together and make functional medicine the term to describe what used to be called natural, holistic, and integrative medicine. And I don't really like their definitions of functional medicine. I just think of functional medicine as being medicine that focuses on function. Conventional medicine doesn't really focus on your function. It's very common for people to come to the regular doctor, conventional doctor, and say, I feel terrible. I cannot function well. I need help getting rid of my brain fog, overcoming my fatigue, resolving my pain, improving my performance in some aspect of my life, or I'm not going to be able to achieve my hopes and dreams. And for conventional doctors to come back and say, your labs are normal, your exam is normal, eat a healthy diet, live a healthy lifestyle, come back next year. That doesn't help people to overcome these problems, which is where functional medicine really shines, because you're focused on optimizing function using many, many, many different modalities and tools that are not conventionally used by physicians, and it's certainly in the conventional medical world. So that's what functional medicine is. Because of this, we get into lots of different things like lab testing and particularly supplements, which are really the mainstays of what I do in my practice, in addition to consultative time to talk about diet and lifestyle. So supplements, generally speaking, in the functional medicine world, you're going to see that if you go see a functional medicine practitioner, they're going to recommend anywhere from $100 a month in supplements to $1,000 a month in supplements. $100 a month in supplements would be an extremely parsimonious, very, very lean, mean practitioner. I cannot think of someone off the top of my head who recommends that little in supplements per month. I surveyed my email list recently, and they said that they were on average spending between $100 and $300 on supplements per month. At my practice, if we're working with someone intensively, generally speaking, we wind up recommending about $300 a month in supplements, plus or minus maybe $50. depending on how hard they're going after their wellness. We've had very severe cases where I found myself recommending about $500 in supplements. It's not that I just wanted to add more stuff. It's that I wanted to get them results faster. Okay. Why do I mention this? A lot of people don't know what to expect in terms of supplementation protocols. I made a video not long ago on how much should you plan to spend on supplements. That's over on YouTube if you want to look at it. It's really helpful. I break down why protocols are, what they cost, why they cost that. There's a lot of budget discount supplements out there. I'm very wary of those. There's also people who are marking up supplements to really, I think, kind of obscene levels. And then I see a lot of people, frankly, making the bulk of their income actually off of supplements rather than actually consulting with people, which I don't see getting people really great results because you're not actually teaching them fundamentally how to be healthier. This is the difference between selling someone a fish and teaching them to fish. I'm all about empowering people with information, and that means teaching them to fish and making them more and more independent. So $100 to $300 a month on supplements is generally speaking where people fall at my practice, sometimes going up into the $400 range or $500 in extreme cases. Lab testing. People have gotten really crazy about lab testing in the functional medicine space. Sadly, there's a lot of price gouging going on in functional medicine lab testing. There's also, I've found, people are, with their functional medicine lab testing, they're over ordering, they're over treating. And this is because people are really fascinated by the lab tests. And I get why, but I haven't found the level of lab testing that I see a lot of other doctors doing to actually be that impactful in actually getting people results. So I went from ordering $500, $1,000, $2,000 in lab testing in some cases. And some of those, that sort of depends on if you're using my prices, which are always more affordable, or their prices, which are always inflated, or not. But I went from ordering more lab testing to ordering less because I got better and smarter with my supplementation protocols. And I learned how to do more with less lab testing. So lab testing varies a lot. And one of the reasons for that is that sometimes whether or not you order a lab test depends upon how much money the patient just wants to throw at the problem. Because sometimes things like allergy tests might be expensive, but they might give you information that really helps you. Jim, jump in and give me your thoughts on lab testing quick before we move on. Jim, you got to unmute yourself. Looks like Jim's connection is bad. So Jim, when you have a minute, just unmute and I'll let you jump in.
Oh, we'll soon have a better internet connection for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm here. Sorry about that. I think when it comes to labs, I think people love labs because it's kind of like the Oura Ring, you get data. But a lot of people will get so caught up in the labs, they'll just completely blow off the lifestyle stuff, right? I think labs are very, very valuable if some people need like a kick in the teeth. They need to see it. But I think people also get really confused because labs can change hour to hour, day to day as well. So I think they're a great guide, but nothing beats really getting into hearty lifestyle change. Regardless of what your labs are, you're going to have to make changes in your lifestyle to get a result that's durable in the long run. So, but as we know from our programs, people really enjoy getting programs with us that have lab testing because a lot of people like to see it right in their face on paper.
Absolutely.
So now you got to unmute yourself.
I know. So let me expand a little bit on that. Labs are great because in a glance at a certain lab, I can tell someone something about themselves, right? High sensitivity CRP is a great example of this. If someone's high sensitivity CRP is elevated, they're at a higher risk of stroke or heart disease in the next 10 years than if it's at the low or in the low risk category. That's incredibly valuable information. I've had people come in who are running multi-million-dollar companies. They thought they were in good health. They thought maybe they just had a few pounds to lose. And we found out that they actually had a serious problem going on internally that we needed to really be aggressive on. They couldn't cheat and have a glass of wine every night with dinner. They couldn't just go out and eat whatever they wanted a couple nights a week. They needed to be really strict for a period of time because their families, their livelihoods, their businesses, many people were dependent upon them getting that problem resolved so that they could continue to go out and be productive and earn a living, right? And maintain their health. Maintaining their health is, of course, critical to doing that, right? So there's labs that are basically the canaries in the coal mine. They're indicators of how healthy you are. So we'll do a lot of lab testing focused on that health optimization piece. Then we get labs that are very helpful for helping us optimize performance. These are more the functional medicine lab tests. These markers are not necessarily robustly tied to morbidity and mortality, your risk of death, your risk of chronic disease, but they will be life-changing sometimes in the information that they give us in order to help people feel better faster and also function at their highest level. We had a recent interesting case where somebody happened to show up as allergic to corn and coffee, and that combined, avoiding those things combined with relaxation and more downtime, gave her a 70% improvement in a matter of months after she'd been struggling with these issues for months and years. So that's the kind of result you'll see, and the labs can really accelerate that. Because yes, you can do trial and error, which is really all you're left with when you don't have lab testing. But that doesn't get the job done sometimes as fast as supplementation, or I should say lab testing. And the other thing about lab testing is it allows us to be intelligent with our supplementation. So I can't tell you what a waste I see in time and money going into supplementation without any kind of laboratory data guidance. It's not that this is always a waste of time or money. There's lots of great supplements out there. There's lots of different ways to use them that don't rely upon lab testing. But, you know, recently we had a case where their serum copper was through the roof. I mean, it was genuinely out of the normal range. It was not just, a little bit high, right? And their hair copper was very high as well. And this person had been taking a copper-based supplement for a long period of time. Getting rid of that excess copper, because we know copper drives oxidative stress when it's present in excess, is critical. This is not someone who's benefiting from copper supplementation. And it's very typical for people to come in and they say, well, I only use the highest quality supplements. I've thoroughly researched them. I know who's making it. I know it's, say, American made from organic ingredients, or it's grass-fed, or it's whatever. And we will find that it contains an ingredient that is not serving them well and is actually, in fact, potentially a significant part of their problem. We see this all the time. And if you're sitting there thinking, I know better, I know I've done my research, believe me, I'm talking to you. I've seen it happen before. We all make mistakes. And don't be surprised if we find something in your supplementation list that's not serving you well or even causing you or contributing to your problem. When we have the labs, when we have the supplements, and it doesn't have to be a crazy amount of lab testing, right? We can get a lot done with just a few $100s in labs, believe it or not. When we have that level of data, that's when we can put that together with the diet and the lifestyle changes and get those significant durable results that I shoot for when I'm taking on a tough case. And that is one of the things I enjoy most about what I do, is being able to bring all of these things together to bear on a case, because that's when we get people really incredible results, and really don't just get them some fleeting improvements, but we get them, like I said, significant, durable results. It's not just the labs. It's not just the supplements. It's not just time with Dr. Stillman. It's not just time with any one member of the team. It's all of it put together. Again, I unpacked all this in my video, The Problem with Modern Medicine Revealed, but now I want to go into a little bit more about what this led me to do in my practice to get people better results faster. And that's to split what I was doing into what I call programs and memberships. So programs I created for what I call, they're called intensive programs because they're intensive. They're also all-inclusive, because I decided rather than just having everything be a la carte and an upcharge, it was more genuine, honest, transparent to just say to people, hey, listen, you want to get great results? You got a 10-year-old problem We should do a 6-month program. It's going to include 6 months of supplements. It's going to include 2 rounds of lab tests. It's going to include all the clinical time you need to unpack those lab tests and do the group coaching in order to get you the results that you want. That's what I recommend for you. And let's just make it all-inclusive. Why? Because if you've ever been to an all-inclusive resort, there's something really nice about being there and being taken care of and not having to worry about, well, how much is it if I take that eclair off of the dessert stand? Or what is it going to cost me to have an omelet for breakfast? You just sit there and enjoy the food and you enjoy all the amenities and you don't have to worry about it. There's things you can buy on the side that are extra. You don't go to an all-inclusive resort and get, say, Wagyu beef ribeyes, all you can eat all day long. You don't get to just drink Dom Perignon on the beach for, your nightly room fee. That's an extra. We have that too. But the reality is I found that I liked that all-inclusive option because it felt more intellectually honest and genuine. It goes back to the tree analogy. If that person comes by your house and says, yeah, I'll get working on this. It'll be $100 for the first appointment, and then I'll come back and work on it a little more, and then it turns into some giant boondoggle. In that respect, it's probably a better analogy to use something like a problem in your house. You call a plumber, an electrician, a roofer. They're serving you best if they say, hey, this is a small problem. We can fix it with just a little bit of work. Or if they say, hey, you have a huge problem. It might not seem like a lot to you, but I'm not going to pretend that the major structural issues or electrical issues or plumbing issues in your home are going to be fixed by a $100 repair. Can I maybe buy you some time with that? Sure. But I would not be serving you best if I didn't tell you that you have a serious problem that's going to require more than just a little bit of my time and resources. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone because it's a really important concept to wrap your mind around. And it's part of why the functional medicine world, you see all these people coming in and out of clinics with a huge variety of experiences. Some people are over the moon, really excited, really happy. Some people are really disillusioned. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and they feel like they haven't gotten anywhere with anybody. And my heart goes out to those people. And this is part of why I changed my practice. I really wanted to help them actually get the results that they wanted. So the programs are all inclusive. Now, because they're all inclusive, they wind up being $1,000 or more per month. Why? You're getting labs, you're getting supplements, and you're getting clinical time. I'm not going to quote exact prices here because they're subject to change. We do change what goes into the program to, we feel, meet the needs of people who are coming into them and get them better results. Sometimes the price goes up, sometimes it goes down. I may change what's included, but generally speaking, in round numbers, that's what it costs. You might say, well, that's a lot, but I'm telling you from an abundance of experience, if you go see a functional medicine practitioner and you're planning on spending less than that per month, you are very likely to be disappointed by the results that you get. And you are, in my experience, likely to spend more in the long run with that practitioner because they do not get to the root of the problem. They do not engage in fundamental lifestyle and behavior change that is necessary to get you the results that you're looking for. They do not use a judicious number of supplements. And what typically ends up happening is at 5, 6, 12 months, you bail on that practitioner having spent $300, $400, $500 on supplements every single month. You maybe have had 2, 3, 4 appointments with them, maybe less, maybe more. And that cost you thousands of dollars. And then you did thousands of dollars in lab testing and you actually got worse results than if you just jumped into a program with us where everything is given to you upfront as a clear price, all itemized. And frankly, what I did when I made these programs, because it felt right to me, it was what I would have wanted if I was a patient, is I just said, how can I mark the lab tests and the supplements down as much as possible so that people can then just afford the clinical time? Because really, I just want people to be able to do these programs so they can get the results because of the life-changing results that we see when people really engage. And because I view it as superior to the a la carte model, and also because I want to honor the fact that it is an investment and people don't make it lightly. And I want to make sure that we're making our best effort in order to serve them best. So that's the intensive programs model. Some of you are probably listening to this thinking, I don't think I need an intensive program or I can't afford that. That's where memberships come in. I created memberships to go along with the programs because there were a lot of people who wanted my care who really didn't need an intensive program. had a reasonably good exercise routine. They get outside, they drink high quality water. They may have done courses or programs. We actually have a lot of practitioners who work with us as their medical team. And so they don't necessarily need us to walk them through all that stuff. That being said, we get a lot of practitioners in who actually need the intensive program because something they've been taught and that they've really had ingrained in them, or dare I even say they've been indoctrinated to believe, is actually incorrect. And we may need to actually teach them a whole different way of moving their body or eating food or whatever in order to get them the results that they want. It's not uncommon for someone to come in who's doing the wrong breath work or they're eating the wrong diet and they just didn't understand why it wasn't working for them anymore. But for people who are not dealing with a serious issue that merits a program, the memberships make sense. They're designed for health maintenance. They're designed to have access to a medical team that will be there for you, that will hear you, that will take great care of you, and who will be available to you. And part of this came down to the reality that when I didn't have a membership program, people who were not seeing me in consultations couldn't really get any support. And I needed to have a membership fee so that I could have staff who would be able to take care of them. We had an email this week from someone who had a severe fever up to like 102 or 103. I quickly asked my nurses to reach out to her, talk to her, make sure she was okay, share some protocols with her, and follow up with her. And that's exactly what happened. So it was a great, experience for her being taken care of by the team in essentially real time via telemedicine that she couldn't have had if she weren't in a membership with us. So that's why I created the memberships. The basic membership and the VIP membership have a different number of visits and involve different numbers of appointments. They both get you just access to our discounted supplements and labs. Labs tend to be, if they're functional medicine labs, we can't get the same discounts on them, but they're essentially available for, we make them as affordable as possible. And then the LabCorp general labs, we actually get really good pricing on those. Generally speaking, our prices are basically 80 to 90% off what you're going to find out there as the list price for these labs, which means like a $2,000 lab panel, our price ends up being something like $200. I can't tell you more than that because I actually have contractual obligations with our suppliers, our wholesalers, for labs and supplements that I can't tell you exactly what the prices are because those are their proprietary trade secrets or whatever. So the membership.
Sorry. With the programs, what are the length of the programs you offer?
So right now we have a 2-month program, a 3-month program, and a 6-month program. And so the memberships are annual memberships. They're a 12-month membership.
Excellent. And what are the qualifications to be eligible for these?
Great question, Jim. Right now I'm licensed and my team is licensed in New York and Florida. If you live outside of New York and Florida, you need to come see me personally in Florida for your initial visit. We'll get your labs done before that so we can review them. If you live in New York or Florida, we can do it all virtually. You can come see us if you would like. But the availability is pretty limited, and we don't want that to keep you from getting started with your care, because we have found that, people don't want to get better later. They want to get better now, so we might as well get started as soon as we can.
Did you want to talk about our onboarding process and what is involved in that?
That's a great idea, Jim. So our onboarding process is actually new. We just revamped it. It starts with a discovery call. That's a complimentary call. Whoever you do your discovery call with, because a variety of our staff actually are available for these, they will make sure that you're a good fit. They will share with you then exactly what we're offering right now as far as programs and memberships. That's because we don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste our time. We want to make sure that what you're contemplating as far as spending on your medical care is achievable to you. And people often wonder what that basically looks like. In general, if you're going to try and do functional medicine for your medical care only, you're looking at something like, at least the high hundreds to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 a year, almost no matter where you go. And the less you spend, the less you're going to get as far as support. No one can give you the level of support we give for prices lower than ours. It's just not economically feasible because of how the staffing constraints work. And I cover more on that in the webinar I've already mentioned multiple times, the problem with modern medicine revealed. So the discovery call is to make sure we're a good fit, just to make sure that you are in the right place and that you're going to succeed with us. After that, we have an appointment called a practice membership evaluation. Why do we have this appointment? For a long time, I allowed people to just book an initial consult with me. And I found that people came away sometimes disillusioned because they realized that they couldn't afford the full program of care. And I sympathize with that. And rather than just kind of saying, well, too bad, this is what's available, I decided to create a system where we could actually get to know someone well enough that we could make an intelligent recommendation for their program of care. This not only protects you from buying things that are expensive, that aren't sustainable for you, which I feel is part of my responsibility to you as someone who genuinely wants to help you. It also, I found, protected me and my staff from people who are grotesquely unrealistic about their results. Because to be frank, some of you are nuts and you are going to come in and you're going to be demanding and you're going to be mean and you're going to be unrealistic and you're going to want care, or you're going to think that all the things that I know don't work are going to work for you. That's what I meant, or what I was talking about when people come in and they say, well, I just need labs and an appointment with Dr. Stillman. That is rarely, if ever, the case. There's been a couple people who've come through where that's been the case. And if that's you, you can join a membership. You can book a la carte visits with me. But the PME, the practice membership evaluation, is where we get to know you well enough to give you an intelligent recommendation on what you need and prepare you for what it's going to take to get the results that you want and set realistic expectations. Because, a lot of this is about managing expectations. I want people to come in and know exactly what we're really good at doing, which is helping people look and feel their best in general. But people need to realize there's limits to that. And some of those are just baked into the cake of life. You cannot change your fundamental biology. There are limits. And my team and I are very aware of these limits. And we're going to be honest with you about those limits. We're not going to sell you on hype and hope and emotionality and, shred 15 pounds in 2 weeks and, cure your brain fog in, 3 months and all this stuff that we see going on that we find very gimmicky and frankly, very, weird. It's just how it is. So we've created this sequence where it is accessible to you. We are not going to waste your time. We are going to show you exactly what we think it's going to take for you to get results. If we think you need a 6-month program, we're going to tell you. If you can only do a 2-month, we're not going to say no. But so long as you understand that we are not going to promise you the world in 2 months, we can work together. And likewise, if you say, look, all I can do right now is a membership, or I don't really feel I need an intensive program, and maybe we agree, great. Jump into the membership. We will take great care of you. We will help you understand exactly what you need in order to optimize your health, maintain your health, and help you understand really where you are in terms of your overall health and well-being, so that you can make sure that there's nothing wrong. Because many people reach out to us because they're really just worried that something's going wrong and they haven't been able to find a medical team and a doctor who they trust with their health and well-being, thanks to all the insanity that went on the last few years, which you all, of course, I think are painfully aware of if you're watching this video. So, Jim, closing thoughts before we wrap up?
All right, let's summarize. So if you want to work with us, you book a discovery call. I'm going to book the link. I'm putting the link right now, stillmanmd.com. You'll go through a form. You'll book a call. Once you've booked a discovery call, once we determine you're a good fit for us, we'll book a practice membership evaluation. You will actually be sent our current prices and exactly what the programs are, so you can look at it before you book the PME. So that if you have any doubts that you can't afford it, you can make that decision. Because a lot of people will bait you onto a call and then they'll throw the information at you, which I think is kind of not forthcoming. So we're actually going to send you the information. Yeah. We're going to send you the prices and everything.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because until recently, we didn't publish any prices. But I actually want to share with people why I did that. I have experimented a lot with programs and memberships in the last 2 years. I have made some very expensive mistakes. And I've tried to keep it as affordable as possible. If you look at our programs and our memberships, you can see everything you're getting in a program in an itemized spreadsheet. And you can go out and you can look at what these things cost in the real world. And then you can see how we're making it more affordable. And you tell me if we're not giving you a square deal. If you don't think we are, I actually would like to know, because I really do feel for the people out there right now who really want to get better. They want to be their best selves, but they feel caught in this sea of people who are just selling them hype and noise and confusion and all these different things. So I'm finally publishing these programs and memberships freely because I am comfortable with it. And I feel like I'm giving people a good deal while also not sacrificing while also being able to pay myself and my staff, which is very important to me. And on that note, I'll actually mention too, we actually have built in now into the program prices a 10% charitable care, which we just started. And I did that because I was really tired of, I am tired in general of the medical system being one in which you're either on Medicare and Medicaid and you're getting everything paid for by the state, which frankly, they don't care about getting you healthy and keeping you healthy. America used to run on doctors taking care of people to a certain extent for free. And I decided to build that 10% in because I think that's how we should be. And so I figure if I believe that, I should go ahead and do it. So like I said, I haven't mentioned any of the prices here. That's because they're subject to change. They're probably not going to change a ton, but I don't want to give people prices that are then outdated, 3 to 6 months from now when we may have changed something like staffing costs or supplements have gone up in price or whatever. Because as you guys all realize, costs are changing pretty dynamically these days. But in general, the ranges that I mentioned before, programs, intensive programs are about $1,000 to $1,300 per month. That's probably going to stay in that ballpark. It would take a lot for me to drop that. And then the memberships right now, the basic membership is $1,800 for the year. The VIP is $3,000 for the year. That actually drops the second year. It's also dropped for people who've done a program, and then the VIP becomes $2,400 and the basic becomes $1,440. And again, I don't want to go over all the details of that because frankly, you're better off just, if you're interested, apply for consultation, book that discovery call. You'll have access to the pricing and you can make a decision on your own after looking at everything that we've worked up for you guys in great detail. So hopefully that's helpful, and hopefully you guys all appreciate what we're doing. If you do appreciate what we're doing, if you like what we're putting out there, we hope you'll like, share, comment, subscribe, send this video to someone who needs to see it. And we look forward to seeing many of you in Florida at my practice and online, which is where we do the vast majority of our work. Jim, anything else to add?
That was excellent. Make sure you remember to get outside.
That's right. Get outside, everyone.